The signal in the void, the cargo vessel Stellar Dawn drifted through the endless black of space, her hull gleaming under the distant light of foreign stars. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge, watching the star charts scroll across the main display. The ship was 3 days into what should have been a routine supply run to the Epsilon colony, carrying medical supplies, food, and equipment to the settlers on the galaxy's edge. Elena was a woman in her 40s with graying hair, pulled back in a practical bun and eyes that had seen too many years of deep space travel. She had been commanding cargo ships for 15 years, and in all that time, she had learned that the most dangerous thing in space was not the void itself, but the unexpected. Space had a way of throwing surprises at you when you least expected them. Her crew of 8 was gathered on the bridge for the evening briefing. Marcus Chen, the chief engineer, was a thin man with calloused hands who could fix anything that broke on a starship. Sophia Reyes, the navigator, was young but brilliant with numbers and could plot a course through any stellar hazard. Tom Bradley handled communications, a patient man who could coax signals from dying equipment. Dr. Sarah Kim was their medical officer, a quiet woman who carried herself with the confidence of someone who had saved many lives. James Walker, their security chief, was built like a wall and had the steady nerves of a former military man. Rebecca Martinez, who everyone called Bex, was their pilot and could fly anything with engines. David Park was their science officer, curious about everything in the universe. Giuseppe Romano, known as Gus, was officially their cook, but really served as the crew's heart and soul, keeping everyone's spirits up during long voyages. They were a good crew, Elena thought. They had worked together for 3 years and trusted each other completely. That trust was about to be tested in ways none of them could imagine. Tom suddenly straightened at his communications console, pressing his headphones closer to his ears. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on the long-range sensors." Elena walked over to his station. "What kind of strange?" "It's a signal, but not like anything in our databases. The frequency is completely unknown, and the pattern..." Tom frowned, adjusting his controls. "It's repeating every 47 seconds. Same sequence every time." Sophia looked up from her navigation charts. "Could be a pulsar or some other natural phenomenon." David Park was already pulling up sensor data on his science station. "No, this isn't natural. The signal is too regular, too structured. Someone is transmitting this deliberately." Elena felt a familiar chill run down her spine. In 15 years of space travel, she had learned to trust her instincts. And right now, those instincts were telling her that they were about to encounter something that would change everything. "Can you clean up the signal, Tom?" Tom's fingers danced over his. Controls filtering out static and interference. Slowly, the signal became clearer. It was definitely artificial, with complex patterns that suggested intelligence behind it. But more than that, there was something about the rhythm and structure that reminded Elena of the distress signals used by human ships. "It's coming from the Zarian system," Sophia reported, checking her star charts. "About 6 light hours from our current position. That system is supposed to be uninhabited." "Supposed to be," James said quietly, "but we've never actually explored it thoroughly." Elena stared at the display showing the mysterious signal. Every instinct she had told her that someone was in trouble out there, calling for help in the darkness of space. But changing course would delay their supply run to Epsilon Colony by at least a week. The colonists were counting on those medical supplies. "Captain," Dr. Kim said softly, "if that's a distress signal, someone might be dying out there." Elena looked around at her crew. She could see the same thoughts reflected in their faces. They were all thinking about what it would be like to be stranded in space, sending out a signal and hoping that anyone, would hear it and care enough to help. "Sophia, how long would it take us to reach the source of that signal?" "At maximum burn, about 18 hours. "And the delay to our mission?" 8 days minimum, assuming we don't run into any problems." Elena nodded slowly. 8 days was a long time when people were waiting for medical supplies. But if someone was out there calling for help, how could they simply ignore it? The choice came down to a simple question. What kind of people were they? Tom, can you analyze the signal more? I need to know if this is really a distress call. Tom worked for several minutes, running the signal through various analysis programs. Finally, he looked up. Captain, I've never seen anything like this before, but the mathematical patterns are consistent with distress signals. Someone is definitely trying to communicate, and based on the repetition and structure, they're asking for help. Elena made her decision. It was the kind of decision that defined not just a person, but an entire species. Sophia, set course for Viserian system, maximum burn. The crew exchanged glances, but no one questioned the order. They all understood what it meant. They were risking their mission, their schedule, and potentially their lives to help someone they had never met and knew nothing about as the stellar dawn changed course and accelerated toward the unknown system. Elena stood on the bridge and wondered what they would find there. In all of human history, no one had ever encountered intelligent alien life. There were theories and speculation, but no proof. If this signal was what it appeared to be, might be about to make first contact with another species. The journey to the Zarian system took 19 hours. As they approached, their sensors began picking up more detailed information about the source of the signal. What they found was unlike anything any human had ever seen. Captain, David called out from his science station, his voice filled with amazement. You need to see this. On the main screen appeared a vessel that was clearly not of human origin. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the stellar dawn, with a design that looked more grown than built. The hull was smooth and organic looking, covered in flowing patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. But the beautiful ship was clearly in trouble. Scorch marks covered large sections of the hull, and pieces of debris floated around it in a slowly expanding cloud. My God, whispered Dr. Kim. It's really an alien ship. Tom was working frantically at his communications console. The signal is definitely coming from that vessel. But Captain, I'm also picking up something else. The ship's power levels are critical. Whatever happened to them, they don't have much time left. Elena stared at the alien vessel, trying to process what she was seeing. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Their response to this situation would set the precedent for how humans interacted with other intelligent species for generations to come. Asterisk. Tom, can you establish two-way communication? I'm trying, Captain, but their communication systems are completely different from ours. It's like trying to speak to someone when you don't even know what language they use. Beck spoke up from the pilot's station. Captain, that ship is drifting toward the system's star. If we're going to do something, we need to do it soon. Elena felt the weight of the moment. Somewhere on that dying ship were beings who had intelligence, who had feelings, who were probably afraid and hoping that someone would help them. The fact that they were alien didn't matter. They were in trouble, and that was enough. David, what can you tell me about their situation? David was scanning the alien vessel with every sensor they had. The ship appears to have been attacked. I'm reading massive damage to their power systems and life support. Based on the energy signatures, I estimate they have less than 6 hours before complete system failure. And their crew? Unknown. Their ship is too alien for our sensors to penetrate effectively. But given the size of the vessel, there could be dozens or even hundreds of beings aboard. Elena looked around at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting for her decision. She could see fear in their eyes, but also determination. They had come this far, and they weren't about to abandon whoever was on that ship. Asterisk. Tom, keep trying to establish communication. I want to talk to them before we make any approach. Everyone else, start thinking about how we can help. I know our ship is small compared to theirs, but we're not leaving anyone to die out here. As the crew began working on their impossible task, Elena stood on the bridge and stared at the alien vessel. She thought about all the stories she heard about humanity's exploration of space, about the courage and determination that had carried their species to the stars. Now it was their turn to prove what humans were made of. The signal from the alien ship continued its desperate repetition, calling out across the void for someone to hear, someone to care, someone to help. And for the first time in galactic history, a human ship had answered that call. Asterisk, the impossible rescue. After 3 hours of patient work, Tom finally managed to establish a communication link with the alien vessel. The bridge of the stellar dawn. It fell silent as strange musical sounds came through their speakers. The sounds were clearly intelligent communication, but unlike anything any human had ever heard. "I'm running the signal through our translation algorithms," Tom said, his fingers flying over his controls. "The computer is trying to find patterns and mathematical relationships that might help us understand them." Elena waited tensely. First, contact with an alien species was supposed to involve diplomats and scientists, not a cargo ship crew in the middle of nowhere. But here they were, and they had to make the best of it. Suddenly, the alien sounds changed. They became more structured, more deliberate. Then, amazingly, a voice came through their speakers speaking broken but recognizable English. "Human ship ... human ship. We learn your words from your transmissions. Please, we need help. We are dying." The entire bridge crew stared at each other in shock. The alien had been listening to human radio and television broadcasts, learning their language. Elena stepped forward, her heart pounding. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the human vessel Stellar Dawn. We received your distress signal. What is your situation?" There was a pause, then the voice returned, clearer now. "I am Velther of the Kethver research vessel, Truth Seeker. Our ship was attacked by raiders 3 days ago. Our power core is failing, and our life support systems are shutting down one by one. I am the last of my crew still conscious." Elena felt her heart sink. "How many crew members were on your ship?" 47. "The others are dead or dying from radiation exposure when our shields failed. I have perhaps 4 of your hours before the remaining life support fails completely." Dr. Kim stepped forward. "Ask about their biology. I need to know if I can help." "Treat radiation exposure." Elena nodded. "Balthar, our medical officer wants to help. Can you tell us about your people's biology? We are silicon-based life forms, not carbon like you. We require different atmosphere and temperature, but we feel pain and fear death just as you do." Dr. Kim looked worried. "Captain, I don't know if I can treat a silicon-based life form. All my medical knowledge is based on carbon-based biology." Elena turned to Marcus at the engineering station. "Can we create a compatible environment for them on our ship?" Marcus was already pulling up technical diagrams. "It would be difficult, Captain. We'd have to completely modify one of our cargo bays, create a different atmospheric mixture, adjust temperature and pressure. Even then, I'm not sure it would work." David was scanning the alien ship with their sensors. "Captain, there's another problem. The Truth Seeker is caught in the gravitational pull of the system star. Even if we could evacuate Belther, their ship will be pulled into the star within 12 hours. Elena looked at the massive alien vessel on their main screen. It was beautiful and tragic, a testament to intelligence and exploration that was about to be destroyed. But right now, her focus had to be on saving the life that was still aboard. "Belther, we want to help you, but we need to solve some technical problems. Our ship is much smaller than yours, and our biologies are different. Do you have any suggestions?" The alien voice was quiet for a moment. When Belther spoke again, there was amazement in her tone. "Captain Vasquez, in all my people's history of space travel, we have never encountered a species that would risk themselves for strangers. Most races we have met demand treaties and payments before offering aid. Why do you want to help us?" Elena thought about the question. Why were humans willing to risk everything for people they had never met? It was something that went deeper than logic or strategy. It was about who they were as a species. "Because you need help," Elena said simply. "That's enough for us." There was a long silence from the alien ship. When Velther spoke again, her voice was filled with wonder. "Your species is remarkable, Captain. We are fortunate that it was humans who heard our call. Marcus had been working on the technical problems while they talked. Captain, I think I have an idea. What if we don't try to bring Velther to our ship? What if we go to hers? Elena turned to him. Explain. Their ship is huge, but most of it is probably still habitable. If we can dock with them and create a sealed environment, we might be able to provide them with power and life support from our ship. It would be like creating a human-compatible bubble inside their vessel. Sophia looked up from her calculations. That's incredibly dangerous, Marcus. We'd be connecting our ship to a vessel that's falling into a star. If something goes wrong, we'd both be destroyed, James spoke up from the security station. And we don't know anything about their ship's internal layout. We could get lost in there or run into hazards we can't anticipate. Elena listened to the concerns of her crew. They were all valid. What they were proposing was probably impossible, certainly. Dangerous and likely to get them all killed. But someone was dying out there, calling for help in the darkness of space. Tom, ask Velther if she can guide us through her ship's layout. Tom relayed the question, and Velther's response came back quickly. Yes, Captain, I can provide you with navigation information. But I must warn you, many sections of our ship are damaged and dangerous. The radiation levels in some areas would be fatal to your crew. Dr. Kim was preparing her medical equipment. I'll come with the boarding party. Even if I can't treat silicon-based biology, I might be able to help stabilize Velther long enough for us to figure out a solution. Bex was already preparing the ship shuttle for launch. Captain, I can dock us with their ship, but holding position while falling toward a star is going to be tricky. We won't have much time. Elena looked around at her crew. They were all afraid. She could see it in their eyes. But they were also determined. They had made the decision to help, and they weren't going to back down now. All right, people. Here's what we're going to do. Bex, prepare for docking maneuvers. Marcus and David, you're with me on the boarding party. We'll create a temporary life support system for Velther, and then figure out how to get everyone out of here safely. Gus spoke up from where he had been quietly listening. Captain, I want to come too. If we're going to save someone's life, we should do it right. Besides, someone needs to keep everyone's spirits up. Elena smiled at the middle-aged cook. All right, Gus, but this isn't going to be a dinner party. Every rescue is a celebration of life, Captain. That's worth doing right. As the crew prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives, Elena stood on the bridge and watched the alien ship growing larger on their main screen. They were about to attempt something that had never been done before. A rescue operation involving two completely different species with incompatible biologies and technologies. The docking procedure was harrowing. Bex had to match velocity with a ship that was tumbling slowly and being pulled toward a star. The gravitational forces were incredible, and the Stellar Dawn's engines strained to maintain position. But finally, with a grinding clang, they made contact with the alien vessel dock. The boarding party suited up in full environmental gear and made their way through the airlock. What they found inside the Truth Seeker was both beautiful and heartbreaking. The corridors were wide and curved, with walls that seemed to be made of living crystal, but many sections were dark and damaged, with debris floating in the zero gravity. Asterisk. Following Velther's directions, they made their way deep into the ship. The radiation levels were dangerously high in some areas, and they had to find alternate routes through the damaged vessel. Finally, they reached a large chamber where Velther was waiting. Elena got her first look at an alien being, and she was amazed. Velther was tall and elegant, with skin that looked like polished stone and eyes that glowed with their own inner light. She was clearly injured and weak, but she radiated intelligence and dignity. Captain Vasquez, Velther said, her voice weak but clear. You came for me. We told you we would, Elena said, kneeling beside the alien. Dr. Kim, what can you do? Doctor. Kim was scanning Velther with her medical equipment, trying to understand the alien biology. Her life signs are weak, but stable for now. The radiation exposure has damaged her cellular structure, but I think I could create a treatment that might help. Marcus and David were setting up a portable life support system, creating a bubble of human-compatible atmosphere, while maintaining the conditions Velthor needed to survive. It was incredibly complex work, but they were making it happen through pure determination and ingenuity. As they worked, Velthor told them about her people, the Kethvar. They were peaceful explorers and scientists who had been traveling the galaxy for thousands of years, studying stellar phenomena and seeking knowledge. They had encountered many species, but none like humans. Most races we have met are cautious and self-interested, Velthor explained. They help others only when there is clear benefit to themselves, but you risked everything for a stranger. This is something new in our experience, Elena smiled. Maybe that's humanity's contribution to the galaxy. Maybe we're the ones who help, because it's the right thing to do. The temporary life support system was working, and Dr. Kim's improvised treatment was stabilizing Velthor's condition. But they still had the massive problem of escaping from a ship that was falling into a star. Captain, Sophia's voice came through their communicators. We have maybe 2 hours before the gravitational pull becomes too strong for our engines to overcome. Elena looked around at the beautiful alien ship that was about to be destroyed. Velthor, is there anything from your ship that we should try to save? Scientific data? Cultural artifacts? Velthor's eyes brightened. Yes, Captain. Our main computer core contains the records of our entire exploration mission. 47 scientists died gathering that information. If it could be preserved, Marcus and David immediately began working on extracting the alien computer core. It was unlike any human technology, but they were beginning to understand the principles behind it. Working together, the human crew and the alien scientists managed to disconnect the data storage system and prepare it for transfer to the stellar Dawn. As they prepared to leave the Dune ship, Velthor looked around the chamber one last time. This ship was my home for 3 years. My friends died here. But because of your kindness, their work will not be lost. The evacuation was as dangerous as the boarding had been. They had to transport Velthor in a specially modified containment unit that maintained her required atmosphere while protecting her from the human environment. The alien computer core was massive and required careful handling. But finally, everyone was aboard the Stellar Dawn. Vex pushed the ship's engines to their absolute limit, fighting against the star's gravitational pull. For several terrifying minutes, it seemed like they might not make it. But gradually, slowly, they pulled away from the dying star and the beautiful alien ship that was falling toward its destruction. As they watched the Truth Seeker disappear into the star's corona, Elena felt a profound sadness, but she also felt pride. Her crew had done something remarkable. They had saved a life, preserved scientific knowledge, and most importantly, they had shown what humanity was capable of when faced with someone in need. In the days that followed, as they traveled to a starbase where Velthor could be properly cared for and her people contacted, the alien scientist worked with the human crew to establish communication protocols. The story of the rescue spread quickly through both human and Kethvar space. Velthor's people were amazed by humanity's actions. The concept of risking everything to help strangers without expecting reward was almost incomprehensible to most galactic species. But it established humanity's reputation as protectors and helpers, as a species that could be trusted to do the right thing even when it was difficult. The rescue of Velthor became the foundation for the first formal alliance between humans and an alien species. It opened the door for humanity to join the galactic community, not as conquerors or traitors, but as friends and protectors. Years later, when Elena had retired from space travel and was living quietly on Earth, she would sometimes receive messages from Kethvar scientists working with human researchers. They were making discoveries that neither species could have achieved alone, building on the foundation of trust and cooperation that had begun with a simple decision to answer a call for help. The galaxy was full of intelligent species, each with their own cultures and technologies. But humanity had found their unique role among the stars. They were the ones who helped, the ones who answered when someone called for aid in the darkness of space. It was a legacy that Elena was proud to help establish, and one that would guide humanity's relationships with alien species for generations to come. Asterisk.